Hello and welcome back to Newbreed Film Reviews. We are on episode 48 and we're going to be doing a review on the new Pixar movie, Inside Out. And on the podcast with me, I have Paul.
Hey, hello.
And I got a special guest, which would be his significant other, Kristin. Say hello.
Hello.
And I thought it would be cool to have her on this podcast, which, if you haven't seen the movie, you can probably judge from the trailer. Obviously, it's about your emotions. And, she, not to say exactly where she works, but she does work in the profession of therapy and dealing with people's emotions. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to see her aspect of the movie, which it definitely has that. So in brief, non-spoiler terms, we'll get into those a little bit later. What do you think overall of the movie, Paul?
I thought it was good. I'm not really one to understand emotions very well, so from what I hear, they depicted the emotions awesomely. It had its regular, Pixar super roller coaster ride where, you're riding high and then they just drop you down low as far as they possibly can and they pick you back up again.
That's kind of what our emotions do.
Right.
So.
I don't think there's a single Pixar movie out there that is not somewhat of a tearjerker.
No,
I think they have to do that.
That's their rule, basically. They have you at a regular level, like everything's good, and then they basically do rock bottom, like as bad as things can possibly get, and then they make it worse after that. They put a problem on top of a problem.
That's true.
And then
like
they
Lion
bring
King.
it back up. Yeah. So.
Was it Mufasa?
Yeah, Mufasa died.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Spoiler. Bambi dies in the beginning. Spoiler.
That movie's like 70 years old now.
So what do you think, Kristin?
I thought it was great. I thought that it really did an accurate reflection on what goes on inside a person's mind. There was one, with my social work cap on, without spoiler, there was one part of the movie that I didn't like that I might get into later, but it just kind of implied a little bit of feelings and the emotions really controlling what a person does, which is true to some extent, not really, but so I think that could be hard for a kid to see. That was that it made it seem like the emotions were controlling what the character did rather than understanding how they work and the role that they play in what we do. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But overall, you're happy with the film?
Oh, I've seen it, twice only, but I want to see it like every night. It was so good.
Yeah.
Cried, laughed, cried again. It was awesome.
That's good. I'm not much of a crier, so I didn't get any tearjerkers out of
I
there.
cried at the opening movie, the short film.
I cry, but I didn't cry in this movie, because I gotta stay tough in some situations, so crying in a child's movie is probably not ideal.
It's a Pixar movie, though. It's Disney.
I know.
Disney pulls all the punches.
I have a record of not crying during Disney Pixar movies, so.
That's good.
Yeah.
Holding the record.
For the most part.
Me in general, I wanted to check out the movie. I thought it was an awesome concept for them to embody emotions and actually display them that way. And in general, we'll talk about it when we're in non-spoiler terms. I think they executed it properly as far as being able to display how emotions are. And I mean, the movie's called Inside Out, and they did a great job of portraying what's outside and what's inside. And they did so many cool things that kind of explain how the brain works and how personality works and the different things. They really broke it down, I think, personally for a young kid to be able to understand. Overall, for Pixar, I haven't seen, I don't know what their last movie was. What's the last Pixar movie that was out?
Probably Airplanes or something along those lines.
Right.
I know they haven't had a hit in a couple
No,
of
they've
years.
been striking out because they did Airplanes, they did Cars 2.
Right, and that's the problem. They made a sequel of a sequel.
Yeah.
And then before that, they obviously made the sequel, which didn't do nearly as well as the first Cars. I didn't see either of them, which is surprising because I usually see all the Pixar movies.
I didn't see Brave either, but I just know that they've been striking out lately, and I think they're back on top. All the other companies that are coming in there, like DreamWorks and stuff like that are.
Yeah, but don't forget about Big Hero 6.
That's true, but
Which I think you did cry in.
I probably came close for that one.
So which
that
one's
one,
better in your eyes? Inside Out
to
or
me
Big Hero 6?
personally, I liked Big Hero 6 better.
Okay.
But
I liked Inside Out better. I liked them both, but I liked Inside Out better. So, obviously it sounds like we'd all recommend.
yes.
That'd be one that you'd recommend.
Absolutely.
It's in theaters now. You can check it out then, or you can wait to Redbox it. I recommend either one. If you want to go see it and you don't mind going to see it with kids, don't go during the day because it's going to be packed full of kids in the theater. Go check it out at nighttime. But, it's an all-around kids movie. But I think, like, we can talk about this in brief terms, but I don't think that it would resonate with, like, a young kid. You know, like, I don't think that watching the movie, I guess, you know, like Minions is out in theaters right now, and Minions, I think you can watch it, you can put a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old in front of Minions, and they'd be entertained the whole time. This movie, I don't think kind of hits that. That's my personal opinion.
I have clients, and of course this has been talked about weekly since the movies come out in therapy, and I have clients that range from 4 to 18, and they've all seen it somewhere in that window, and about 8 or up have really been able to use that movie in a therapeutic benefit, where if they're younger than that, it's kind of, which was your favorite character? And they can talk about, I really like Joy's hair. So you can definitely spin it, you know, when you're talking, I'd say 5 or up, where they can understand it enough to kind of conversate about it, and then maybe 8 or 9 to really understand it and understand how the emotions impact their actions.
What I was going to say too, and like what I was thinking, even from a parent standpoint, not to go like into detail with what you do every day, but I think it's a tool. Like now it's actually a tool out there for you to be able to say to your kid, you obviously can see from the trailer, so I'm not saying anything that's a spoiler, but like which emotion are you using? Are you using anger? Are you using joy? Are you using fear? You know, so I think it's a good mechanism to be able to. Too bad Joan is not a little older for him to be able to watch it and me and be able to tell him, what are you feeling right now? Is anger controlling you at the moment? But I think it's an awesome tool out there right now, and I think parents can utilize it. I think people in certain professions can utilize it. So that's big. I mean, it's a kids movie, but I think it's a talking piece from professional psychologists out there, and that's a big statement. I think that's where Pixar, I think, separates themselves.
Was it you, Chris, who was telling me that the guy who wrote it, like, went and saw and talked to a bunch of psychologists or did a bunch of research and found out, like, the actual
That's
way?
what I heard. Yeah, I mean, it's not like this. I'm the source that knows that, definitely. But, yeah, that's what I heard, that he had clinical psychologists have a weigh-in on how the part involving the emotions should be written.
I think you'd have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it was very accurate.
Yeah, they executed it great. And, I think that with him being able to go in there and find out, like, what ways to portray stuff, was cool. And, like, we'll talk about all the really cool things that they did to kind of show this stuff. But, do you guys have anything else that you want to talk about before we get into spoilers?
Before spoilers? No.
No?
No.
You just want to talk about the movie?
Let's do it.
What about you?
It's hard for me not to talk about the parts, so.
And this is, obviously, if you guys are just tuning in, you don't know that, this is Kristin's first podcast that she's on here, and, I think she's doing pretty good. And, otherwise, Dave is not on here because Dave would never ever watch any kind of Pixar movie or any kind of cartoon kid movie. I had to drag him to go see Finding Nemo, and he begrudgingly admits that it's a good movie. But Dave likes gore, so if it's below a PG or if below a PG-13 rating, he's not down for the movie. So he probably won't even listen to this podcast. So anybody that's out there, hit up Dave on Facebook and say you're an idiot for not going to check out this movie, and stop being stubborn and not listening and not watching kids movies. I'm personally sending you guys out there to do that. So, with that being said, we'll go to spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Alright, so, getting into spoilers. So what'd you guys think? Like, what was your favorite part of the movie?
Bing Bong.
Bing Bong?
Love the guy. I thought he was great. Bing Bong is the imaginary friend that, what is her name? Riley has.
Had as a
child, like young child. She's 8 in this movie?
11.
Jesus. 11. Okay.
I hope.
Somewhere around that age. And when she was a small child, she had an imaginary friend named Bing Bong. And he's great. He's like an elephant thing.
Part dolphin, elephant, cotton candy.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's part cotton candy.
He cries candy.
He cries candy, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. But I like that whole element. Like, it wasn't just emotions, that they actually brought in, you know, something else in her mind that wasn't, you know, that was basically made up. I thought he was a great character.
I think he represents a lot of transitional phases that a person goes through. His ultimate sacrifice was him kind of accepting that he's no longer needed in Riley's life. And I think that Bing Bong is he's a part of the imagination land. And, at one point, the imagination land fades away. And when Bing Bong fades out, you see the imaginary boyfriend step in. And so I think that also speaks to, you know, the fact that Riley's getting older, no longer interested in imaginary friends, and she'd rather have the imaginary boyfriend. So Bing Bong's adorably dolphin-y cotton candy self serves a lot of purposes for the movie.
You know, too, like, when you're watching it, because you know where the movie's going.
Right.
Like, you know that she's going to be growing up.
Yeah.
And she's going to leave childish things behind. So, like, as soon as he steps on the scene, you're like, okay, dude, they're going to get rid of you somehow.
Yeah.
I didn't know until the last time, seeing him start to fade away when he was in, the memory dump. I'm forgetting what it was really called. But when parts of his body were fading away, that's when I was, like, putting it together. And the last time they jumped in their little wagon, that was really tough.
That was a
really
tough
sad.
part. And, you know, this is the saddest part of the whole movie.
That was a heartbreaking moment, yeah.
It really was.
You know, I can deal with
Ultimate
her
sacrifice.
crying in front of her class because, her emotions were messing with her.
Pushing the wrong buttons.
Right, pushing the wrong buttons. I could deal with, you know, all this other stuff, but dealing with the imaginary friend who was just so happy and joyful and just wanted to be back in her mind, and they just got rid of him, and it broke my damn heart. So
what'd you think about it? Or what was your favorite part? Now we're talking spoilers, so you can say whatever.
My favorite part, I think, was when at the very end, I mean, altogether, everything was so great, but I really liked when they showed the little glimpse of, the mom's mind or the dad's mind, and at the way end, even like the cat and dogs. I just thought
that was funny.
That was just so funny, but I just thought showing the overall theme of every emotion is a part of every behavior that you do, and that even when something starts off sad, it can still end with a joyful memory. You know, I think it was when she missed the game-winning shot and she was crying on the tree, and then it brought in the family element, where they were hugging her, and then the teammates were lifting her up. So even though it started off really sad, it didn't have to stay sad, and she was able to let, you know, the family island and the friendship island and hockey island, everything came together, and even though it started off really sad, it ended really positive for her, and that's the part that she held on to. So there's joy and sadness and anger and all those emotions are in everything that happens, but just focusing on the positive side of it.
For me, what I really liked about the movie was the structure. Like, I loved the fact of how they portrayed everything. Like how, you have your main headquarters, which controls like all your emotion, and then you have your 5 emotions that are in there. You got, joy, fear, happiness, disgust, and sadness, which we'll talk about those characters in a minute. But, and then outside of headquarters, you have your personality islands, which are things that make up your personality, and throughout the movie, like, you lose those different parts of personality, which if you can think back to certain hobbies that you've had, you lose parts of hobbies, and you lose things, and you lose people in your life. So those things, the way that they portrayed that those things disappeared when things happened is great. I thought it was awesome, like, how they did, the imagination land, and how they, did the abstract thought and stuff like that, how they portrayed that. The thought that was near and dear to my heart, obviously being a movie producer, would be the Dream Studio,
Yes.
the LA Dream Studio, where they actually have the reality creator that when she goes to bed, they create dreams depending on what the day was, which I thought was awesome. And, I liked the long-term memory, and then you had the train, so the long-term memory, and then you had those little mind worker guys. Mm-hmm. You know, they were going through and they were sucking out like all the gray memories, like all the old ones. And then they had like the train. What was the
Train of thought.
The train of thought. So like they had the train that would go back and forth from your long-term memory. So it's almost
and it died down when she was sleeping too. So that also just another representation of what happens to your mind. Your thoughts do kind of fade away and the dreams step in.
Yeah. And then, so I just thought if you think about, your train of thought, so like obviously it goes to your long-term memory and then pulls it up and then everything that's in your normal day. I just think overall they did a fantastic job. Like just portraying the inside of your brain. I think that Pixar thought about it and said, how do we portray brain and emotions and thought? And I think they did an excellent job.
I don't know, again, I heard this through some source of social media, but that somebody, whether it was the director or the writer or somebody involved in the movie said, I want to know what's going on inside my daughter's head. And I don't know.
I think the director has a younger daughter. Mm-hmm. So, that makes sense.
But one thing that you said in the therapeutic lens, I really liked when the island started breaking apart. I thought that really painted a good picture of what happens when kids, whether it's trauma or just something scary or bad happening in their life, and their island personalities really are impacted. It is hard for them to be their normal selves, and then their behaviors, they do act out. They are dysregulated. They are, just not making the right choices. And I think that did a good job really showing that from the inside out, like why it is that way, why they're changing and just making the wrong choices.
True. And like, if you think about it, like, my skateboard island for me disappeared a long time ago. That's what destroyed on mine.
I think mine's still there. Just
still buying
nobody's visited in a long time.
You're not sending any memories down to Skateboard Island.
No.
So it's just like grayed out right now.
But I would like to, active. But every time I get back on a skateboard, I'm like, oh shit, I'm too old and I get hurt. So.
I hope your music island's still open.
To an extent, not the same style that it was, but it's open for business, I suppose.
So about the 5 personalities, what was your favorite? Either one. Like, what was your guys, out of the 5 personalities in the movie?
Of the emotions or of her personality?
I mean, not personality islands. I'm sorry, emotions. Like, what out of the 5 emotions? I think sadness cracked me up. Like, how sad.
Yeah.
How she was so blue and I'm just gonna lay here. And especially when Joy was like making fun of her, like trying to figure out where she was. I'm sorry.
I'd say fear.
She cracked me up.
Or concern, whatever
fear.
It's called.
Fear.
Probably attracted me the most. Seeing as how I am such a worrywart all the time, and I always think the worst situation of things, like the worst case scenario is always what pops in my head, as you guys both know.
Thought distortions.
So
do you think your fear guy wouldn't be like a scrawny guy in your head? He would be like a jack dude that controls the mainframe.
Yeah, he's probably overpowering it.
He's like, he's Terry Crews.
Yeah, I would love to have Terry Crews in my head.
He's
like,
your
controlling.
fear.
Yeah. Except he's a big black guy from like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the Old Spice commercials.
Oh, and White Chicks.
Yes.
And he's in the car and
he's solid.
Yeah,
solid muscle. But just imagine him as Paul's fear character taking over the place.
They were all my favorite. I think Sadness though was the most instrumental for the movie itself, because I think when Sadness helped Bing Bong, when Bing Bong realized that Riley was growing up and that he wasn't needed in her life anymore and he was crying his candy, and Sadness, Joy was like, come on, Bing Bong, let's go, and really tried to keep his spirits up, and we always want to think positive and stay positive, but Sadness came in and really recognized, well, of course you're sad. Riley's not, the little girl you knew anymore, and I get why you're sad. I'd be sad too.
She doesn't want you anymore.
But I think that Joy was able to see that sometimes we do need to cry. And I think it shows kids that crying doesn't make you weak. You're still just as strong as you were, whether you cry or not, but that sometimes you do need to let every emotion out. You just don't need to hang on to it, but you need to feel every emotion that you're feeling and recognize that there are going to be more than one emotion, and that's okay.
I bet you guys, when you tuned in the podcast, didn't know that you were going to get some personal strategies with dealing with emotions.
I don't think Paul knew that when he started dating me either.
It's a true story. No idea. But it's alright. I just tell her to stop all the time. And
it doesn't work.
No.
So what other comments, concerns, issues, dislikes? Do you guys have any dislikes?
Well, the one part where I said I didn't like where it seemed like they were controlling, and it was really only like 1 or 2 parts in the movie, but such a small, silly part. But when Riley was trying to slide down the little railing on the stairs, and she was sliding down. Remember that part? Am I describing it?
Yeah, she went to go up to the railing.
Yeah, and kind of slide down. Her and her mom were going for a walk.
Her goofy personality was supposed to take over?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just made it, as soon as the emotion touched the button, it's like she stopped, and then she walked back to it, and then stopped, and it really made her seem like robotic to the emotion, or the emotional control. But that was such a small, minimal part in the movie that it definitely didn't consume it by any means, but looking at it with my social work cap on, that was the only part that I didn't really like.
Social work cap.
Yes. Sometimes it's hard to take that off.
What about you, Paul? You got any dislikes on the film?
You go first. I'm trying to think.
I read that I didn't really see this, but I personally don't have many or any dislikes. I don't think I can think of. I was fully entertained the entire time. Somebody said that they didn't like the stereotyping that they did with the male to females in the movie, like the mother and the father.
Oh, come on. That's just...
Somebody nitpicked that, and just because the father was like ignoring his wife and watching like a football game, and then she was like dreaming of a Cuban guy, and then she was like mad at him. So like they said that they badly portrayed females and males.
Didn't.
It's a joke. And that's what it's supposed to be.
It's a joke to an extent. I'd say it's pretty realistic. I mean...
Yes.
She's probably thinking of some Cuban guy right now, and I'm thinking about football right now.
Right.
Like,
but that's a funny part, and people I think people are just nitpicking the film.
Yes.
Thinking that it was, they were sexist and portraying that. Did you notice though that the control people, so that the girl, her control person was Joy, and the mom's control person was Sadness. She was sitting in the middle, and the father's control person was Anger. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. I switched it up that way.
That was one of my favorite parts when they had the parents and showing that, because I think it in a bigger picture, it really just showed perspective thinking and how just thinking outside of what you think is going on and seeing that, okay, maybe I just need to nudge my husband. Maybe he just is drifting off. Maybe he's not, this awful father. Maybe I don't need to snap and yell at him. I don't need to let my anger emotion kick in. Maybe I just need to nudge him and help him out a little bit. And so I think it showed perspective in that specific scene. So that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
And it was, of course, was funny. And that was I think the main intent.
Yeah, I was reading like reviews on the movie and they nitpicked it. And then I forgot something with like, the scary, what was the subconscious thought or whatever, the part with the clown?
Yeah.
Somebody said like, oh, it scared the kids. And like, whatever.
Oh my god.
I know.
Well, then, there's scary thoughts. We
toughen
have scary
your kids
thoughts.
up.
I know.
Your kids need to understand that they can talk to you about their scary thoughts, and they need to know that they're going to have scary thoughts and that that's okay too.
Right. Broccoli and giant broccoli and clowns could attack you in your subconscious thoughts. That just could happen.
I mean, I did have broccoli tonight. I might dream of that broccoli attacking me tonight.
With clowns.
We might.
With clowns.
Yeah. So those are the two. I don't personally agree with those, but those are the two things that I read. I remember, like as a dislike on the movie.
Yeah.
Anything for you? No, nothing?
I couldn't think of anything.
That's a good thing. Usually when there's all likes and less dislikes.
I know.
That's a good.
I know. It's a good movie. Definitely you should go watch it. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that about sums up our opinion on Inside Out. It's Pixar's newest movie that's out there right now. It's in theaters. You can let us know what you think and hit us up on Newbreed Film Reviews on Facebook. And Dave runs the Gmail. So if you want to write to Dave at newbreedfilmreviews2014@gmail.com, write in the subject, you need to see Inside Out. If you don't, then you're just a stubborn a-hole. Just write that in the subject line.
Will it show that whole...
I think you can write a lot.
Yeah, it shows.
I just hope that when he opens the email, he doesn't just see, you should, and then delete it. Oh, that's spam.
So put that as the subject and put it in the comments.
Yes.
Yes. Both places. So maybe we can motivate him to it. But I can't get him to watch Super Troopers. I've been trying to get him to watch Super Troopers.
Which is ridiculous.
That's not Disney.
The guy...
No, I'm just saying, I can't get him, you can't get him to watch, we're gonna go on a mini rant on Dave. Dave won't watch the movie unless he absolutely wants to. There's no movie.
What do you think what emotion is driving him to not do that?
Oh, we're not playing the emotions game. Stop being a therapist.
That's why we asked her as a special guest on the show. She's actually a professional aspect on this show right now.
If you do send Dave an email with that, take a picture and send it to me on Twitter at Newbreed Film, or send it to our Facebook page, post it on our wall, on our timeline, whatever it's called nowadays. And
so thanks for subscribing. Thanks for checking it out. And, we're on iTunes, Podomatic, tons of other places.
But you know where to hear us because you're listening to us now, so.
That's very true. So, we'll catch you on Sunday we don't know what the subjects are going to be.
No
yet.
idea.
We'll figure it out though. And we'll have 2 new shows for you on Sunday.
Alright. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.